With Black Clover having a plethora of powers and characters alike, I'm guessing a lot of people are wondering, why didn't you make something with Asta, Yami, Yuno? What are you doing? But something I've always thought is, my man Finral, he's so underrated. My man is literally able to create portals and shoot attacks that can destroy people. It's insane. And I thought that would work so perfectly with the protagonist of Izuku Midoriya. So here we are with what if Deku had spatial magic. By the way, this is going to be magic, not a quirk. So stay tuned to see how this scenario plays out. Enjoy.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
Alright, so we start a story in the perspective of a young Izuku who's currently at the Quirk Doctor, just anxious to find out what his quirk's gonna be. The Quirk Doctor looks at him and Inko and then goes, well, you see, your son is a bit of a strange case. It appears that he has a quirk because, as you can see, he's displaying these strange abilities, and having a book float around with him wherever he goes is not something very common. Not only that, but it appears that he has physical strength amps and speed amps for some reason. He's a lot stronger and faster than many other kids around his age, and that causes me to believe that he has some sort of enhancement type quirk. However, we cannot be too sure of this, seeing as his is a case that is completely unrecognizable. We don't really know how to track whether he has a quirk or not, so your son is kind of a weird outlier, potentially an evolution of quirk. Potentially the next step to quirk evolution. We're not quite sure at this moment, but as things stand, you can be certain your son has a quirk. The reason we say he might not is because of this little bone here. Inko listens, she's like, oh, okay, understand, doctor. And Izuku's like, so what's my quirk? And from here, out of nowhere, my man like holds out his hand and creates a little portal or fallen angel gate or whatever. Right? And when my man creates a portal, he creates another one to the side of it, and he sticks his hand and his hand comes out the other portal. And the doctor and Inko were both shocked. They're like, ayo, how did Mans figure out how to do that? But essentially, Izuku is just having the time of his life. I mean, imagine you find out that you have the ability to literally create portals, bro. How lit is that? It's just incredible. I don't know why nobody's thought of this idea, but essentially, if you've never seen Black Clover and you just watch my videos, Deku's just gonna have this space magic where he can create portals, he can shoot spatial attacks, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, let me know if I missed something down below in the comments and some other attacks and powers that Finral should be having access to in the future, and I'll definitely make sure to take accountability for those in the next part. So yeah, anyways, so what ends up happening from here, I believe, is Izuku essentially goes to school the next day, right? Now, him being a kid and Bakugo recently having unlocked his quirk, he's feeling like he's the top of the game, you know? Bakugo's feeling like he's the strongest, can't nobody touch me, you know that feeling. But Deku comes in and everybody's like, so Izuku, what quirk did you get? And he shows them, he creates a portal and he tosses an apple into it and creates another one and it pops right out. And they're like, whoa, teleportation? And Deku's like, yeah, I can create portals. And the doctor said I'm really strong and fast. Immediately Bakugo comes up to him and he's like, wow, Izuku, that's a pretty strong quirk, but you're still not stronger than me. And Deku says, yeah, Ka-chan, your quirk is amazing, but I think my quirk is pretty good too. I just hope that someday we get to both become pro heroes. I know I'll definitely be excited to become the number 2 hero. And Bakugo looks at him and he's like, wait, number 2? Izuku's like, yeah, number 1 is for you, right, Bakugo? And, you know, Ka-chan just smiles and he's like, yeah, you're gonna be the greatest backup hero ever, Izuku. We're gonna train so hard and we're gonna become extremely powerful heroes. From here, we're gonna be having a little bit of a time skip, in which during this time skip, Inko got a little greedy with her son's quirk. Keep in mind, Izuku's portals, basically, he can open them whenever and wherever he wants. He just needs to have seen the location that he's going to be teleporting to. And I am not sure if he like needs to see it with his own eyes, like physically be there, or if he simply needs to see it like on a picture. You guys could definitely let me know that down below in the comments, because I'm not really too sure. I did watch Black Clover up till like episode 100 something, but just honestly, Finral has always been one of my favorite characters in Black Clover. I know I'm a lame-o, but it is what it is. That said, though, Izuku pretty much ends up flying all over the world with Inko. Anytime that he has a summer break, Izuku and Inko always go travel places. And Inko does this so that Izuku could see the places and open portals back home and to the place whenever she wants to get some American breakfast or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, she travels from place to place to get things that she wants cheaper. She travels from place to place to get things that she wants for groceries. Like, Inko and Izuku are living their best life. My man Izuku could like honestly work as a UPS shipper and mans would be making bank, but he wants to become a pro hero. So that aside, yeah, so we have a time skip until the day around that last day of the 10-month training camp. Exams, no, not exams, but beach. Remember when Izuku was training? Yeah, he's doing that. So during this time, Deku and Bakugo would have both grown up to kind of have their own individual personalities. Deku during this time would have ended up having more of a like I like girls personality. Like my man's Deku is definitely in that, like he's cocky, you know, he likes flirting it up. He's also goofy and he's also a bit shy as well. Pretty much think Finral, except not that much scared, seeing as this version of Deku is a little more cockier when it comes to his quirk, seeing as he does know that his quirk has incredible potential. I mean, the man can teleport. Who else can do that? So Deku is definitely like he feels himself, if you know what I'm saying. Like the man is definitely like he's up there. He's up there with the greats. So yeah, Izuku and Bakugo both would have trained their quirks up until this point, and Bakugo would be substantially more powerful than the one in the original because he's been training with Deku for so long. Deku at this point would have overcame his weakness, which was essentially his mana drain and his stomach aches, which he used to have a lot of. And this would always cause him to have to go running home straight to the bathroom and lock himself in there, take his shirt off, and we all know how that goes. So man was fighting for his life. Anyways though, so what ends up happening from here is essentially Izuku and Bakugo are training, right? Now they're both doing some sparring and Bakugo's about to come in with an explosion. Deku hits him with one of his abilities, which is essentially a spatial orb that teleports Bakugo away. Except this time, Deku wanted to try more of an offensive tactic. So he shoots an orb that's actually meant to damage him. He puts in a lot of power into it and he doesn't know the true extent of its capabilities. But what actually ends up happening is essentially the orb like pretty much follows Bakugo, like heat signature, it follows him and it almost eradicates this man Bakugo from the face of the earth, because like spatial magic like erases you. It's as plain as I can put it. If you don't have mana and you don't have a way to counter it, you're pretty much dead. I'm sorry. But yeah, Deku gets hit with Bakugo doesn't get hit with the attack. He barely dodges, and I mean barely dodges at the last second, and it ends up hitting a scrap of trash, a metal piece that ends up being completely disintegrated and just erased from existence. And when Bakugo turns around to see what had happened with a smile on his face, it quickly disappears. He's like, Izuku, did you just almost kill me? He gets angry and Izuku's like, Bakugo, you know that's my fault. He's like, I mean, at least it didn't kill you and now we know not to use it. But Bakugo gets enraged and ends up following Izuku, but Izuku creates a portal home and Bakugo's just left on the beach shooting explosions like, you almost killed me, damn it. But essentially what ends up happening is Bakugo decides, whatever, it was an accident anyways. And he thinks back to all the times that he pretty much caused huge scars on Deku with this mad crazy explosion. But it is what it is, and eventually they both end up getting to the day where they're both taking the entrance exams. I would go really into depth with this, but I'm basically just going to be skipping everything until the robo portion. Now, I wish I could tell you guys that Deku meets Araka, yada yada yada, but my man is too focused on what he's there for to do any of that. So essentially what ends up happening is Deku makes it to the outside robot portion and he decides that there's no reason to go to the front. So Ida never stops him, and essentially as soon as Present Mike says that they can go, Deku opens a portal underneath himself, jumps in it and falls right back into the arena, where he proceeds to open tons of portals underneath these robots and send them flying from as high as they could possibly go. And when they fall to the ground, they just shatter, they break. these robots don't have that much durability. And Izuku just basically does this. Think what Uraraka does, where she makes them light and they fall. That's essentially what Deku does. He also, since these are inanimate objects, uses that one ability that pretty much erases them from all existence. And he teleports a bunch of robots away with his magic. He goes around running as fast as he possibly can, using mana skin to improve his durability and stuff like that. And my man just runs in and does his thing. I mean, this man is going off in every single way, shape, and form you can think of. And in case you guys think I'm not being too detailed when it comes to his attacks and stuff like that, genuinely speaking, it's because I don't really know the full extent of Finral's powers. That's why I'm hoping you guys could let me know what's up down below in the comments. That way I can add more like Spadazzle onto part 2, you know what I mean? So regardless though, what ends up happening is Deku obliterates a bunch of robots, as you would expect, and he passes. I mean, when the zero pointer ends up arriving, that definitely does pose a big problem, because Deku's never opened a portal that big under it. So essentially what he does is open a portal underneath Uraraka to save her, and he takes her away. This version of Deku doesn't actually end up taking out the zero pointer, and instead opts to just leave it alone. So no rescue points, but he got more than enough hero points to keep his first spot position in the robot entrance exam. When they both, and by both I mean Bakugo and Deku, end up, deciding that they want to, open their acceptance letters together, and Bakugo overhears that Izuku got the highest scores, he immediately gets enraged. He's like, "What? Izuku? How'd you get a higher score than me?" And Deku just shrugs. He's like, "I don't know, Bakugo. I mean, I did my best." You know what I mean? And come to realize, he got 2 points over Bakugo. And that just makes this man mad. So, yeah, my man Bakugo just gonna have to live with it. But essentially, the day comes where their first day of UA happens, and they end up being dropped off by Mitsuki at the front gates. When they arrive, they both wave her off, and Mitsuki looks to Bakugo before smacking him in the head and saying, "Don't cause any problems." She then turns to Izuku and says, "Listen, you're like a son that I never had, so make sure he stays in line." Izuku laughs, and he would then proceed to say, sure thing, Katsuki, no. What's her name? Mizuki, yeah, Mitsuki? No, yeah, Mitsuki, sorry. Mitsuki. From here, she smiles, and Bakugo and Deku get off the car, and she peels off driving as fast as she can, almost getting a speeding ticket. But from here, Izuku and Bakugo end up finding their way towards Class 1A, and they end up sitting towards the front, with them both really wanting to learn as much as they can in UA, so they're not exactly going to be sitting in the back or the middle. They're both directly in the front, and as soon as they get in there, Bakugo puts his feet on the desk, and Deku is honestly just looking around. Like, my man is scouting the area, where he's like looking at everybody, browsing the competition, like in terms of the guys that are there. He sees Todoroki, he's like, all right, he's gonna be a threat, but nothing I can't get past. And then he looks at Momo, Uraraka, and all the girls that are walking into his classroom, and he's like, oh yeah, that's what I like to see. You know what I mean? Like, my man is having a good time just looking at all his potential candidates. And eventually, Uraraka ends up walking into class. She's one of the last ones, and by this time, Ida was already trying to argue with Bakugo, but Deku told Ida to beat it, and Ida now has to argue with 2 people. So when Uraraka walked in and she saw Izuku and Bakugo arguing with Ida, she walks up and goes, "Hey, you're the kid who saved me, right?" And Izuku's just about to say something before Aizawa cuts this man off disrespectfully and tells everybody to meet him outside. They would do so, and when they get there, he tosses a ball straight to Izuku, telling him, "Here, kid, toss it." Izuku says, "As far as I can," and Aizawa says, "Sure thing, it doesn't matter." Deku immediately opens a portal to America, and pretty much he tosses the ball through the portal, and the ball just drops out. And Aizawa's tracker ain't no way that it's about to track that many meters. So I'm just gonna be saying that Izuku gets infinity, and everybody watches at that marker, and they're just like, "What?" But Izuku just, he shrugs, and then he's like, "Hope you guys can keep up." Kaminari would be like, "This is gonna be so much fun, I can't wait." And Aizawa turns to them before immediately telling them that, "Fun, huh? They'll be expelled since they think it's so fun. Whoever comes in last place is going to be immediately removed from the pro hero course." And immediately everybody starts shitting themselves. They're like, "Hey, yo, like, I didn't say it was going to be that much fun. Like, please don't kick us out." But Aizawa, my man, don't give two F's about what they're thinking. So he pretty much proceeds to go through with everything else. And eventually all of them have to do the 50-meter dash. Deku goes through a portal, the grip strength test. Deku does pretty good in terms of that. He ends up doing the ball throw once again, immediately getting infinity. And when it comes to the side-to-side jumps, what Deku does is pretty much create portals that make it so that that he just jumps into it and he like falls out immediately. So it's like side to side and he's just like throwing himself into the portals and being launched out at super speeds. When Deku gets out, he is so dizzy because he's like, why did I do that? But he immediately goes to the back, and it's at this moment that one of the girls in UA, Momo, would actually end up asking him like what his quirk exactly is. Izuku tells her that his quirk is a spatial quirk, that essentially what he was told is that he has the ability to create portals and use spatial attacks. Momo thinks that's extremely interesting, and she would ask about the Grimoire, with Deku saying, oh, I call it my Grimoire. It pretty much is active anytime I try to use my quirk. Momo would think that that's pretty interesting, seeing as she's never seen anything like that. And Izuku would simply nod, before then watching as Bakugo just throws that ball as far as he possibly could, getting about, let's say, 100 more meters than he got in the original. That's how much more powerful his explosions are, which is, you know, not too much, but definitely a lot more stronger. Seeing as a Bakugo who had been training for like a year almost in UA, didn't really get that much stronger with his explosions, but more or less gained more experience with his quirk. So this Bakugo has more strength and that same amount of experience. So Bakugo is pretty strong at this point. Except Izuku, honestly, at this point, Izuku would definitely destroy this man Bakugo. But, you know, he's never said anything though. Anyways though, the test would end up ending and Izuku would actually end up trying to flirt it up with Momo a little bit. Momo, being the person that she is, she would get extremely shy and red in the face at this and think that Izuku, you know, he's actually kind of cute. Now Izuku basically looks like just the way that he looks like in canon, a little bit taller. This time he dyed his hair just like Finral, because why not? And he just has like a more confident aura to him. He also has a muscular build, which definitely helps his case with the females. And my man is doing his thing, you know what I mean? But essentially what ends up happening is they end up going home and nothing happens, so I'm gonna skip it. They come back to school about 3 days later, and it's at this point that we see All Might busting into the door being like, I'm a normal hero. Everybody's like, All Might, what are you doing here? And All Might would look at them before saying, well, kids, I'm gonna be the one in charge of class. Everybody loses their minds, and from here, All Might is like, yeah. And from here, everybody's like, well, that's pretty good. And essentially All Might just tells him that to be a pro, you have to look like a pro. He presses a button on a remote that he has, and the wall like would shift to reveal all of their costumes. From here, everybody gets dressed, and we have the typical My Hero song playing in the background as everybody walks out looking awesome with their costumes. Can we just talk about how dopey Izuku's first costume look was? I'm hoping that by the end of the series, Izuku gets like a really cool superhero like upgrade where it's not that much like tech and it's more like just a spandex or whatever. You know what I mean? Like All Might's costume. But, you know, you never know. Izuku is going to be a different person. So who knows what it is that Horikoshi's going to give him. Anyways though, when All Might's outside, he proceeds to look at them and say, so how do you guys feel about UA so far? And everybody smiles. They're like, honestly, it's awesome. They would ask if they're going to be expelled this time, and All Might would say, not quite. You know, something like that. And then being all like, well, that's Aizawa's way of doing things, not mine. So class, get ready for the heroes versus villains. But before that, a word from our sponsor. As anime fans, we love to show our support to our favorite shows by rocking anime apparel. But something I'm pretty sure we can all agree on is it's so expensive. So I've partnered up with Fandom to bring you all affordable, high quality anime merch that you are sure to love. And if you use my code ZETHER at checkout, you can even get an extra 10% off the already affordable merch. Keep in mind, it does come from overseas sellers, so its sizing is going to be different since it's overseas. That said, let's get back into the video. At this point, All Might would tell everybody in the class to pick a little sheet of paper which will tell them who their teammate and partner is going to be. When they would do so, they would end up getting the drafting ready, and from here, All Might would establish everybody in the system for the Heroes vs Villains 2v2 battle trial. everybody would begin getting extremely excited and pumped up, and Izuku would actually be partnered up with Uraraka just like in the original, except he's not actually going to be fighting against Bakugo or Tenya Ida this time. Instead, he's going to be fighting up against Todoroki and Tsuyu, since I used a random generator for the opponents that he was going to be facing. That said, I see this all going something like this. So I think Izuku and Uraraka are just kind of going to be having a little bit of a first awkward interaction, seeing as they never really do talk with each other. Uraraka being the person that she is, where she's more extroverted, she would definitely be more carrying the conversation. And seeing as Izuku likes what he sees in terms of the costume, he compliments her, causing her to blush. He's like, that costume looks pretty good. Uraraka gets flustered and she's like, yeah, thanks. But from here, Izuku just looks at her and smiles, and he then would tell her that here's the plan. We know that that one kid with the half and half hair color has an ice quirk. That's going to be a bit of a problem, but I think I should be able to get that out of the way. For the other girl, I think that's something that you will potentially be able to take care of. I'm going to jump in there and throw off the kid with the red and white hair, and I think you're going to be more in charge of just getting to the bomb so that we can have a fast victory. I wouldn't exactly be able to see everything, but I'm just gonna bust in there, take a quick look around, and immediately open a portal underneath me to get out of there and come right back to you. So just wait here and I'll give you the signal when you can come back up there as soon as I come back, alright? Uraraka nods, and Izuku proceeds to go up the flight of stairs, basically getting his way towards where he believes that they're at. Once he hears Todoroki and Tsuyu talking, he immediately blows open the door, looks around. Todoroki gets on guard and is ready to use his ice quirk. Well, he already did, seeing as he froze the upper 2 floors, so it's pretty cold. But Izuku, after he sees that Todoroki's ready to launch an attack, he would proceed to pretty much fall back, like a trust fall, into a portal where he like pretty much falls right into Uraraka, and she's like, was that the signal? And Izuku's like, sorry about that, I didn't mean to fall on you. He totally did. And from here they get up, and Izuku would tell her that here's the plan. He's going to open a portal and she just needs to jump on the bomb. It's as easy as that. Uraraka says, right. Izuku opens a portal underneath him and her, and the portal opens, revealing Izuku right next to Todoroki as he shoots a spatial magic orb that pretty much teleports Todoroki away, and Uraraka hops on top of the bomb just like she did in the original, catching the dub for the hero team. With Bakugo watching, thinking to himself that yep, that's something that Izuku would do. Not even try to fight him, just get the job done. He smiles and says, that Izuku, he never does want to have a straight up fight. He would then smile, thinking to himself that I guess it's kind of cool. It's manly in his own way. And so everybody would be shocked, with Momo saying that the MVP is clearly Izuku. Todoroki would get pretty mad at the way that everything happened, and he's just like, bro, like, how did this go down like this? Bro, this was not supposed to happen. Todoroki is clearly salty, but we eventually have all of the remaining battles go down, and Bakugo ends up sweeping whoever it is that he ends up facing. But after this, everybody just kind of decides that, yeah, you know what? It's about time that they all go home. So they would do so, and about a week later, after getting permission to sign to go to the USJ, everybody's on the bus, and as I would tell everybody, alright, we're here. Ida would begin getting up, as he was actually Clash rep, seeing as Deku decided that after that amazing display of leadership that Ida displayed, he should be the Clash rep. And Ida, he's pretty happy with that. So what ends up happening here is Ida tells everybody to get off, and they meet the pro hero 13. She begins to explain everything to everybody, being like, all right, quirks are dangerous, quirks are this, and that. And everybody obviously listens, being respectful. But eventually, a black mist would appear in the center of the stadium and say, sorry to have crashed the party, heroes. Like for part 2!